Welcome to Espresso Yourself, Mom, Teacher, and Runner Talk, the podcast where lesson plans meet lattes and long runs.
We're four women juggling the journey of motherhood, teaching personal goals, and a whole lot of caffeine.
Here, we keep it real, the messy, the meaningful, and the moments in between.
So grab your coffee and join us for honest conversations, a few laughs, and a reminder that you're not in this alone.
So it's been a little while since we talked. We are a couple days past our normal recording session time. So we had a crazy week. Becky, why don't you share what was going on in your life this week?
We had a little bit of like a movie situation going on. If you've ever seen Homeward Bound, that awesome 90s movies where the dogs and the cat, they travel across country to come home to their family. It wasn't quite cross country, but my dog got out on Sunday and my son came into the house and he was like, Furby is gone. My husband and I looked at each other and we're like, what? Where is she? She must have like run after a rabbit or something. And my dog never runs. She is good off the leash. We do not have a fence, nothing. She is good, but she must have seen a rabbit and she went off. So we went to go look for her. And around my neighborhood, we have a lot of vegetation. We call it the woods, but it's not like a forest preserve. And we could not find her. She had her leash attached to her. And we felt like maybe she got stuck somewhere, but we were driving around, walking around, and our neighbors even looked for her too on their bikes with their two dogs, and we could not find her. And we decided to eat some dinner and just try to calm down because it just was a very nerve-wracking situation. And then finally, she got out at like 2 o'clock. And finally, at about 10:15, we hear this bang on the screens on our back porch. And my husband and I looked at each other and I said, I don't know what that is, but I'm not going out first. You go first and I'll follow you. So we took the flashlight, we went outside, and there she was. She came home on her own. And my son was sound asleep. And I went into his room. I woke him up. I was bawling, which I also didn't expect. I don't know. I'm not like so much of a crier, but she came home on her own and she had no scratches, no cuts, nothing. She didn't even look like she was dirty. She just came back and I couldn't even believe it. I thought that she was a goner, and there's a lot of animals, bobcats, alligators, I don't know, raccoons, opossums, like they're all over, and any one of them could have hurt her, but she came back safe and sound, and now I'm extra protective over her.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know we were chatting that day and wondering if we were even going to be recording, trying to take your mind off of it, but I thought it was really cool too. She came back shortly after we had all talked, before you went to bed, you were able to message us. And I felt that was a little bit of peace for all of us, knowing that, okay, you're going to get a good night's rest. The dog's home, and it like brings tears to my eyes right now because I've been there, done that with my dog, as I shared with you the one time.
Mhm.
And he just kind of showed back up at the doorsteps. And, our pets are our family. So we were really glad that you were able to get some answers yet that night.
Yeah, sleeping that night was a lot more peaceful than it was going to be.
So, Katie, I think you have some updates as well from this week.
Yeah, so I'm now in training mode. I did the AI training for the assistant principals a week and a half ago, and that went really good. I know the last time we talked, I was like super Sunday scaries. And so it went really well. My big bosses were there, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I knew they were going to come in and sit and listen, but I definitely got more nervous, but it went fine. I've actually trained more assistant principals one-on-one on it, and my comfort level has grown. But this week, we have new teachers, and it's been really funny to see how different grade levels respond to what I'm giving them. And all I'm training them on right now is like, here are the programs we use in our district. This is what you're going to use every day. And so it's like Google Classroom, Skyward, which is like our grade book, attendance. What's the other one that I was walking through? Oh, like Ever. And just walking them through, just, hey, this is what you're going to use. This is how you log in. Basic 101. I wasn't going into anything crazy. And of course, all the high school coaches are like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And just like the head nod. And then I got my junior high people, and they're definitely my people because they were like, oh yeah. And they were interacting, and I definitely felt more comfortable with them. And then what really cracked me up was, and I don't live in this world, y'all do, is the elementary people. Oh my word. Half of them, because they couldn't get into some of these programs, I thought they were going to have heart attacks. And I was like, it's okay. You're going to log in. Just if you don't have to today, it's okay. Just watch me. No, they wanted to log in themselves. And I was like, okay. And I thought this woman was about to lose it on me. And it was the end of the day. They were tired. And this woman was so upset. At the end, she goes and just crosses her hands. And I was like, oh my gosh. And in my head, I'm like, okay, I have to have a different approach to elementary. Noted. But it was just really funny. And I went and told my boss afterwards because she's a former elementary principal. She taught elementary. She's also been a junior high principal. But I went to her and I was like, okay, I get it. But I get the elementary. You're going to have to help me with that because I don't speak elementary. I speak junior high and high school. Elementary, I clearly don't speak because there were some people that were very upset with me. And I was like, maybe I didn't take this lightly. It was really funny. So I'm definitely learning all that. But I do have to tell y'all a really cool, fun thing I found out today. So the person who took my position, I met him today and I was like, let me get him some material. And so I don't know how it came up, but we started talking about football. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm a Chiefs fan. He goes, oh, so Patrick Mahomes. And I said, yeah. I said, I went to Tech. He went to Tech. We were there around the same time. Of course, I'm going to support him. And he goes, I went to Tech. I said, when did you go to Tech? And he goes, 2012. And I was like, I was there in 2013. And I said, what was your major? And he goes, history. I said, so was mine. Then we start talking about professors. And I said, did you have so and so? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, did you have so and so? He's like, yeah. I was like, y'all, we crossed paths like 15 years ago and had no clue. Like we have crossed paths and had no idea. And now he's taken my job at my old school. And so I texted my assistant principal and I was like, you're in good hands. You have a former Red Raider, went to school together and didn't even know it.
That's
So
That is
awesome. I
crazy.
love when those
it's
things.
just a small world kind of thing. And Texas Tech is not a small school, like 25,000 people, and look what happens.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
that's my update. What about y'all? I know y'all have like kind of started getting your classrooms.
Becky, you have been in a ton because you're changing rooms. And from what I saw, it looks like you had to change your room completely again. Like you started getting settled in the room and then you had to move.
Well, I didn't have to. So the sad part of it is that one of my very close friends in my friend group from school, she is from Nebraska and she had been here for 4 years and she went back to Nebraska. So I was supposed to be teaching with her, like on our team, but I went and took her room because I wanted to be across from our team leader. And being new on the team, I know that I'm going to have a ton of questions because it's been a very long time since I've been in kindergarten. And so I asked if I could move classrooms. So that's why. And I thought I was trying to get ahead in my old one, putting up a couple of bulletin boards. So I took those down and I took all of my stuff from one end of the hallway to the other. And now my 3-year-old walked into our classroom today and he looks, and the first thing out of his mouth was, Mom, this is a mess. Yeah, so I have been in a lot because I'm worried I'm not going to get everything done. And everyone says you will, but
You will.
until it's done, I'm not going to believe it.
I did have to laugh though, because you were talking about the first thing I do is my bulletin boards because they take the longest. And then and then she had to take them all down just to put them back up. Yeah. I've only been in maybe a couple times and I only have Friday to go back. It's like my last day to get in there and get things moved before we go back. But then I had the genius idea of building a new desk for my small group area. So my husband and I are in the process of that. We started it Sunday and then we haven't touched it since. So hopefully I'll have that done before we start back. But, like we said last episode, everything will come. It just, as teachers, we like to have it all and we have to give ourselves grace. But what about you, Rachel? I know with you being virtual, what are some things that you've done to kind of get yourself ready?
Well, our online classrooms aren't set up yet, so I can't upload my lessons or anything quite yet, but I have been just going through the slideshows and just editing them, making sure they're matched up to the curriculum and the guideline for the school year. So I've just kind of been working on that. But as soon as I'm able to get onto my online classrooms, then I'll start uploading those. But I've been doing some webinars, just trying to get some more PD hours in while I can, while I still have some time. So I do kind of miss the hustle and bustle of going into the classroom. Like I hated bulletin boards and I would do those last. It's funny that you guys were talking about doing those first. They were the last thing I always did, but now I kind of miss it that now that I don't have that. It'd definitely be interesting, the start of the school year for sure for me.
Which is funny that you say that it would be your last thing that you would want to do. What is like the one thing that at the beginning of the school year you just dread doing? Like it's the last on your to-do list. You're trying to avoid it at all costs until you have to. What is that like one thing for you guys?
Classroom library.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I know,
No.
Rachel, you mentioned the one time you're like, I kind of gave up on that because the kids
Yeah.
destroy it anyways. Like, here, have at it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And my kids at the end of last year, I always give them a tub. I have them open them up, look for the labels, make sure they're the right thing. And then this summer, I was moving a couple things around in my library. I'm like, these aren't even put away right. So here I had them do that and they didn't even do it right. So what was the point? I don't know.
Okay, so I'm going to tell y'all at the junior high level, we don't label our books. We literally just throw them on the shelf.
Yeah.
And I have like no rhyme or reason how I organize. I'm like, great, let's just unload the crates, put them on the shelf. They're good to go. And so I'm sure that like drives people nuts. And then of course I have that OCD kid that shows up in my class and they're like, "Ugh." And I'm like, okay, go fix it. Like, you want a job, go fix it. And they love it. So really, I just throw it up and I let like a kid that just cannot stand it go fix it.
Even in the second grade level, some of them like to do that.
Yeah, I was at a training once for literacy and it was all about like reading and things and loved this teacher. For us elementary teachers, we like to have bins labeled by categories or authors and everything are pretty. And she said she does not do that. She will get blank note cards out. She sets books out for kids and then she has her class each year she does this. So she starts over every year. And she has the class organize the books into groups and sort them and explain why they sorted them that way. And then they make the label for that group of books. And I thought, that is a really cool idea. I have yet to ever try it because then every year I'd have to like start over. But I do like the idea because your students have that input and they're explaining why they put books together that maybe you would not have grouped together. But that was just a really cool, interesting way to do a library, a different way.
I mean, it's a good way to introduce genres, right, into your lessons at the beginning of the year and see what they know and what you need to review, because I know you do that every year. But like, what do you do at the beginning of the year to set up the expectations and how long do you spend on it? How long until you're supposed to start up with curriculum? The behavior is so
Well, and
important.
the kids going over and browsing in the library. And then if there is no system set in place, then they're over there swirling around. So I was thinking the same thing, Becky, like setting up those routines and expectations within the classroom as well, like what things have worked, what things haven't worked for everybody.
So I actually was walking through one of the lessons I do the beginning of the year, but mine's geared a little differently. We call it civil discourse and how to have civil discourse because in our class we have discussions and you want to teach junior high kids how to have conversations and discussions with one another. And so from there we give them examples and then we let them like create their own class laws. I know other people call it social contracts, but I kind of folded into class laws and I put them in groups and they all get to make like their own set. And then we come together and we vote on them. And so they're not only practicing the whole, hey, let's create laws together or rules together for each other, but then let's vote on them and practice this active democracy. And so they're seeing all these different facets of what they could do, but then putting it into the classroom as well.
I should tell that to my husband. He teaches civics, but he says it's not a democracy, it's a monarchy.
Speaking of junior high, though, I saw a teacher just today on, I don't know if it was Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, one of those. And it was a science teacher, but I think you could do it with any subject or gen ed. And instead of them having to designate roles as they're doing group work or things, they had little stickers that they were on each person's desk that were like the jobs, the roles. So that way, anytime they were doing a project, whoever was sitting at that table with that sticker, that was their job as the facilitator or note taker or whatever. And I thought, well, that's kind of, that saves you time and arguments between kids saying, well, I want to do this or this and this, and then if you want to shuffle the kids up at the table, you can too. The labels were more science geared, but I'm like, you could do that with any subject, really.
What else I think with that, you said roles, but I also think of when you're having to randomize and call on students and they have those different types of stickers. Let's say they have like animals, right? Elephants, giraffes, monkeys, cheetahs, hey, let's have our cheetahs. If you have a cheetah sticker, stand up and share your answers. So I think that's clever with not just the roles, but you can use it for randomization as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about behavior, because I know we all have tips and tricks and things that we've done, things that have worked. PBIS, which some of you are familiar or have done it. I have mixed opinions on it. I think depending on how it is implemented, maybe, the focus is on positive, and I agree with that. I think we should have that positivity with kids, but there also needs to be some sort of consequence, some sort of accountability, because I feel like since we've done PBIS, our behaviors haven't necessarily gotten better. There is not as much follow through. So for anybody that's not familiar, positive behavior incentive system is what PBIS is. It's all about coming up with positive reward system and positive points. So they get points, and I know at our school, they can use their points to buy things from the online store. And we have switched over to doing more experiences that students can buy versus tangible things. We have our own fourth grade store specific to our students that they could purchase from. And then we always have our own individual system in our room, because beyond PBIS, we know that every year our kids are different and what's going to work for them is different. So over the years, I've changed what I've done with my own students in the classroom, because especially when they get to fourth grade, some of our kids don't care about those points anymore. Last year, I hardly had anybody buying anything from the store. Like, they just didn't have that drive by the time they get there. So I'm just curious, like, do your schools have like a system in place that you are like required to use versus your own classroom system?
Yeah, we have a school system for sure, and we did it quarterly. They had quarterly rewards, and it started out as something smaller because more kids could earn it, because they wanted everyone to feel that positivity at the start of the year, especially. And each quarter is only 9 weeks. But then at the end of the year, and maybe it's because it's Florida, I don't know, but at the end of the year, if the kids had no referrals and no write-ups, then each grade level had, I think, 45 minutes to 4 or 5 inflatable water slides set up. And so it's like disgustingly hot here at the end of May. And so all the kids were in their bathing suits and they were sliding down those inflatable slides. That is super popular here. I don't know if it is in other places,
Yes.
but all over every single birthday party, these kids have it. So they were pumped to be able to do it at school. But we've done stuff like glow parties and things like that, but that's school-wide incentives, and then each classroom can do their own thing.
We did PBIS also. We actually just started it. This was at the school I recently left, but we just started it last school year, and I was one of the ones in charge of like trying to implement it. And it was the first year of it. It wasn't very consistent. I think some teachers were for it and some weren't. And I think everybody really has to be on board also. But like Allison said, I believe that students need to have consequences, because in the real world, there are consequences for your negative actions. You don't just get rewarded all the time for every little good thing that you do. So it has its good points, but it definitely is not the best program out there, in my opinion.
Well, and at some point with those consequences, there has to be some follow through with parents. There has to be an inconvenience to the parents.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, your child's done X, Y, and Z. We're not just going to send them back to the classroom. We're not going to just, oh, okay, now you've made a change. Here's some candy, or here's some coloring time. Because if there's not that follow through then at home, there's not going to be a change. At least I've seen it. I don't know about you guys. That parent connection with that discipline, I feel like, has drifted away.
Yes.
And we're not holding the families as accountable as what it used to be like, at least when I was growing up. Like, you were terrified if your parent got a phone call. And some of the kids, they're like, no, my parents aren't going to care. I'm like, are you serious? So I just think over time, like, we still have to work on that connecting with the parents. And sometimes I feel like it's put on the teachers a lot that we're the ones always calling. And sometimes it would be nice to have more of that support with admin as well. But that consistency is definitely a huge, huge part in it, for sure. But now that you're doing virtual, though, like, what are your behavior management things that you're thinking about for, because that's a whole different,
Yeah.
feel like you're not right there physically with those kids if they're
No.
swirling around. So, like, what are things
Right.
that you've thought about behavior wise?
It's definitely more of a challenge now. Thankfully, when I started teaching my last group in mid-April, they were just so wonderful. Probably the worst quote unquote behavior issue I had was like the students who just weren't like there, like they would log in and then turn their cameras off. For something like that, we have to make phone calls home and hope that it changes. Does it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I did at the end of the school year, we were playing a game where we were using the virtual whiteboard, and I had a few students who would not wait their turn and just scribble all over the board. So what I did was I put them back in the waiting room until we were done with the game. I didn't kick them completely out, but while we were playing the game, I stuck them in there, and they could not come back in until I let them in. So I always have the option to remove students if they're disruptive. That was disruptive. I typically don't do that. I do have we can give stars to students right there in the program, and I keep track of their stars. And after a certain amount, they get put into a drawing. And I still have to tweak this a little bit because I was only working with like 6 weeks here, and now I'm starting at the beginning of the school year. But at the end of the year, then I put their names on the spinner wheel, and then the ones whose names were on the wheel met me in one of my classrooms, and then I would spin the wheel. And our school's really great. They have so much swag. All I have to do is say, here's the student's name, here's the student's number, give it to so-and-so, and they'll pick something and mail it to them. So that's what I ended up doing. We also did show and tell. Yes, fourth graders still love show and tell. So we would do that on Fridays after class if they earned enough stars for the week. I just couldn't believe what an incentive that was, but they they would remind me, we didn't do show and tell yet. Like, okay, well, after I make time for show and tell, but hopefully I'll get some more ideas, but those seem to work so far. So we'll see what happens this school year.
Anything like, Becky, that you're thinking of moving grades, something new that you want to try, or things you've heard about, things you're like, okay, nope, never doing that again, or like, I'm really interested in this. I would like to give it a try this year.
Well, I think a couple of things. So, one, the behavior management system that has worked impeccably. I don't even know how many years I've been using it, probably over 10, is called CHAMPS, and it's an acronym. Oh my gosh, I love Randy Sprick, who's the creator of it. I'm just like infatuated. So CHAMPS stands for conversation, help, what the activity is, how you move, what it looks like to participate, and if you can do all of those things, then you have success in all of it. And it goes for every single lesson, what is the conversation level, like the voice level, and it's 0 to 4. And how do you ask for help? I think these things were so helpful because sometimes as a teacher, I had no idea what I expected of them in an activity. And so you say exactly what the activity is, how can they move around the room, and what does it look like when they participate in that activity. And it just gives such solid boundaries for it. So like, if you think about, okay, here's a worksheet, okay, here's the directions, okay, go work with your partner. Well, where can you work? How can you talk? How can you ask for help from me? Are you coming up to my desk? Am I coming to you? And the kid, like I would say it every single activity. For kindergartners, that's a little too much. That is just a lot to remember. So we use the acronym MAC for movement, activity, and conversation so that they only have 3 expectations to remember instead of 5. So hopefully that will work for them. I don't know.
Even having like visuals, like for your,
Oh,
like your
yeah.
movement, if you know that, you're going to give them these 3 options, then you'd have the visuals and you can just like put them up during that activity.
I could give them verbally in 5th grade, but for sure, like, okay, your movement is walking feet, or you can move to the carpet, or you can move to a table. I can't even imagine the first week of school and just nonstop talking about expectations and routines and what to do, because even if they've been to preschool at our school, they haven't had school all day. And so that's going to be a lot. And that is legitimately the only thing I am nervous about. I'm only nervous about the first week of school.
I think we all are, because you just don't know. That's a whole brand new group of kids. I mean, even for you, Katie, not being in the classroom anymore, it's still a whole new group of people, right? And you don't know how they're going to take things or how things are going to roll out. Everything changes. Your schedule changes. The kids change. New teachers. Once you get in there and you get into that routine, things kind of become normal. But at the beginning of the year, it's always a little nerve-wracking, I think.
Yeah.
Even for those that are taught the same grade level so many years, it's still like,
Yeah.
wait, what do I
It's
do
always
those 3
different.
days? What do is this enough time? Like, I've done it every year, but why am I still questioning myself?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's just natural. And you don't know your students yet. You don't know what they're going to be like and what behaviors you're going to have. So like we all have these great ideas sometimes, and then it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is not going to work for these kids and
Mm-hmm.
we need to do something different. So yeah.
So I am more nervous. At my old campus, they have new instructional coaches. So the guy that took my spot and then the RLA coach. And I'm not saying they aren't solid teachers. They are fantastic teachers. But I think about the kids because I told my kids, oh, yeah, I'll be back. I'm not going anywhere. Well, I didn't expect this move over the summer. And so I was telling somebody today, I was like, okay, how are they going to do with this transition? Because you have your special kids that don't always handle change the best. And I even told the guy today, I said, look, not that they're bad kids, I said, but they may struggle with me not being there or so and so not being there because it was not known to them that their teacher left or that they were going to be gone. I told them I was going to be their teacher again. And then now I'm not. And so y'all talk about the first week. Well, the first week I'm supposed to go help on campuses with arrival and dismissal. And I really want to ask if I can go to my old campus. And I have a feeling my boss will probably say yes, but I kind of just want to go to be like, okay, I'm not going to be here, but you're going to be okay. Just kind of like coach them through, like, you have somebody new, you're going to be fine. Go out and be great. So that's kind of what I think, like, first week for me.
For sure. I mean, there's kids that really cling on to those relationships and it throws them if they're looking forward to seeing certain teachers that they've connected with. And sometimes we connect with them and we don't even know the connection that they have felt with us. So what are some of the like crazy or interesting behaviors that you have dealt with over the years? What's one that really sticks out in your mind?
A while ago, when I taught second grade, I had a kid who he had a one-on-one aide with him all day. And I wasn't exactly sure why. And then I found out when he flipped his desk.
My student, this was way back when I taught first grade, 20 some years ago, and she was a desk flipper. It happened quite a bit. And one time I just ignored her. And after a couple minutes, she just picked everything up and put it back in her desk like nothing happened. I was like, okay, that's what we're going to do now. I don't remember if she ever did it again after that, but I just remember like being like, you don't see it. Nobody else sees it. We're just moving on here.
We've had that happen. And then we just evacuate our kids out of the classroom. I had a runner. He was upset with me and he was like, see ya. And he took off out of the building. And I was like, I don't know what to do. We were heading to lunch and my teammate was like, I'll get your kids. And I just took off running after him. Our assistant principal did, and then a bunch of other teachers, like our special ed teacher. So we were in the neighborhood trying to find him. The cops ended up having to come try to find him. I got my workout in that day. I ran all the way to his house to try to find him. But then
Was he
here's the
there?
kicker. No, he wasn't at his house. They ended up finding him somewhere, like he was kind of hiding. They brought him back. And then his grown-up came, talked with us, and then took him home. But it was right before our fall break. And because it was right before our break, he did not get any punishment. Yeah. So there was really no learning that happened from that.
So in the junior high world, it's like pretty crazy. So I'm not gonna go into like really crazy ones, but I will say there was one time we had state testing, and state testing, like everything's shut down. You know, kids are where they're supposed to be. We have all hallways monitored. Well, it came to a point where they're taking attendance, and they're like, "Hey, we can't find so and so." I was like, "What?" And so we start walking around, and mom's like, yeah, I dropped her off at school. So we start scrolling cameras, and sure enough, they come to find her hiding in a bathroom because she didn't want to test. And so this was like an hour and a half long search for this kid because they weren't sure if she ended up in the wrong testing room. And then they weren't sure if she walked home because she's known to just walk off the campus. And funny enough, we had the same scare again with her this year as well. And when I tell you, I was like, she walked off the campus. Where is she? And she's not a runner. She just doesn't want to be there on testing days.
Who does? Who can
She
blame
will
her?
just disappear.
Good
So we
idea.
call her our disappearing child. She just disappears.
We could go on and on about all the different behaviors, different strategies, and I'm sure we will hit on this more later in an episode. But as we share things that have happened to us, I know, Becky, you had a fun little activity for us to do today.
Yeah, I've seen on social media the Never Have I Ever teacher version, and I used to play that game all the time, but the teacher version is hilarious. So wherever you are, unless you're driving, hold up 5 fingers, and then we're just going to go through 5 of these because otherwise the game could go on and on and on. But okay, so the rules of the game is I say never have I ever, and if you have, then you put a finger down, and the person with the least amount of fingers up at the end of the game is the winner. Okay, so let's start out with never have I ever had a lesson with tech issues and pretended it was intentional. I can't remember. I think so, probably in all the times, especially on Zoom during COVID. All right, second one. Never have I ever been cursed out by a student. Okay, so I have 3 fingers up, Katie has 3 fingers up, Allison has 3 fingers up, and Rachel has 4 fingers up. Okay, this is good. All right. Never have I ever broken up a fight. So if you have, put a finger down. Okay. Let's see. Rachel put one down, Katie put one down, and so did Allison. Thankfully, I never have. As a woman in my building, I never will. I'm going to wait for the men to do that. All right. Never have I ever cried at work. Yep, we all have. Okay. Okay, for sure. All right. How many? I'm going to do a couple more. Never have I ever had to erase inappropriate graffiti off the desks.
Does a whiteboard count?
say so.
Then I'm down.
Because, yeah, I mean, it's not technically graffiti because it's supposed to be erased, but yeah. Okay, so I just thought that was so hilarious. And again, we could go on and on. What we want you to do here is comment your best Never Have I Evers. You can either comment on our Instagram page at Espresso Yourself Podcast, or you can email us at espressoyourselfpodcastgirls@gmail.com.
Right. And we are also going to be doing an Amazon gift card giveaway. So if you subscribe to either our Spotify or our YouTube channel, like and follow, you will get an entry into that giveaway. If you tag a friend and share this, those will be extra tickets into that drawing. So we will see who is going to win that Amazon gift card. Thanks for sipping and sharing a moment with us today. We can't wait to keep showing up with you each week. Messy, caffeinated, and real.
And if you liked what you heard, we'd be so grateful if you'd follow, subscribe, or share this with your teacher, bestie, mom group chat, or training partner, or all three. It helps more people find our little corner of chaos and connection.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram at Espresso Yourself Podcast. Tell us what resonated, share your own stories, what topics you want us to cover, or just come say hi.
Make sure to hit follow so you don't miss next week's episode.
Until next time,
Keep showing up.
Keep giving yourself grace.
And espresso yourself.
one sip at a time.
Cheers.